Howdy everyone and welcome to a new episode of your favorite podcast, The Solar Post. Today, we have a very special guest with whom we will be talking about very interesting topics, so I recommend you to make yourself comfortable and listen until the end of this episode. Before we start, I would like to make a very brief introduction of our guest today. He's a compliance engineer, director with over 9 years of experience, specializing in NERC, engineering compliance for protection system and control standards. He leads a compliance engineering team focusing on training and technical implementations of standards, experience in setting up regulatory compliance sites, organizing compliance programs, and developing relay protection system training. He holds a master's in electrical engineering, power systems, from California State University. Currently, he's working for Radiant Generation, a global company based in the US, as compliance engineer director. So, 𝗵𝗃𝗺𝗺𝗺, welcome to the Solar Post podcast. It's a great pleasure to have you here. We are thrilled to talk with you about your current role and how it's related to build a greener and more reliable future. So, welcome.
Thank you so much, 𝗶𝗃𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗃. It's also nice to see you and nice to do this podcast. Hopefully, everything works. I'm not getting nervous, but hopefully yes. But yes, so my background, like as you said, I have my background is in both power systems, electrical engineering from California State University, Sacramento, and I've been doing this NERC compliance, especially with the operation and planning standards like PRCs or the PRC standards, and then some of the mod standards. I've been helping the NERC regulatory compliance standards to make sure that most of these standards are able to comply with most of the owners or any generating owner or any of other functional entities, because not only generating owners that have encountered with, I've had different, some even distribution providers, even transmission providers, right? But currently, I've been at Radiant Generation. I really help with a lot of generating owners and to make sure that they are compliant with the standard protection system and protection and control standards. So that's what I've been doing. In my one of my background or part of my background also is to like as a director, to help all the other people that I work with or the team members I work with, to help them to be able to understand, number one, understand the standard, and then number two, know how to apply the engineering background that they have. Because oftentimes when we hire people, they might have an engineering background, but honestly speaking, you have to teach them like the compliance aspect.
Absolutely.
I always tell people when I'm training them that, hey, you have your engineering background, but there's also like the regulatory understanding that you need to have to be able to apply those into to be able to apply the standard on itself. I hope that's also given.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so relevant because usually what you're saying, I mean, you have your major or you have your background in any engineering that you have, but it's really relevant. But first I want to ask you about NERC. What is NERC? Because maybe for our audience, they are speaking about NERC, but maybe they don't know what NERC means, what they do. So I don't know if you can provide just a brief introduction about what is NERC.
That's, someone will say NERC 101. So, of course, NERC is North America Electric Reliability Corporation, right? That is the full meaning of the word NERC. But even before NERC, there's another body, or the body that's actually empowered NERC to make sure that they develop standard is 𝗶𝗃, right? So 𝗶𝗃 comes in, and NERC is the one who is in charge for the electrical reliability of the North America system. And basically what they do is that they ensure that standards are developed. They ensure that standards are developed. Then those standards is what the other bodies will use to of course use it to comply. So let's say for example, currently one of the standards that that is being developed or is in the process of being developed. Maybe I think we will talk about it later on about what we call FEC 901. That FEC has given NERC the mandate to come up with this standard, right? So NERC is working on coming up with this standard, and then when that standard is developed, they will send it back to FEC, and the FEC will approve it. And when that is approved, now it's going to be enforced, right? And all the other enforcement bodies that ensures that both like in their region, those standards are implemented, and make sure that all the bodies that are under them are able to, like, number one, comply with it, and then make sure that they follow through what the standard is requiring them to do, or requiring them to do. So I hope that helps with that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really relevant to know about that, because usually when we heard about these different organizations and this regulation, it sounds really messy, it sounds really complicated, but in general, it's something that it's actually really important for have this reliability in the system, right? I don't know if you can provide a better understanding how it's related for everyone that is now hearing about this, hearing this podcast, and how even they are not currently owners of any facility or any wind, or solar facility or something, but they are related. Maybe they are, very involved or very eager to learn about this. So I don't know if you can provide a brief explanation how or why this is really relevant also for every one of us.
I think what comes in mind right now is, like, everybody talks about generation, right? So of course, as you generate electricity, somebody must use it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But you cannot just generate it without using it. So as this system, or as you generate, there must be another body or another what we call users, or another what we call load. They need to use the electricity that is generated. But as the system is generated, or as you generate this electricity, it's not just generation, but also you must also protect, because think of it, this is high voltage that you are generating. So as high voltage as is going through the system, especially in the transmission system, you transmit it to a distribution system. All those systems need to have a form of protection, right? So for the bulk electric system perspective, yes, you want to protect your equipment, but as you are protecting your equipment, you can protect your equipment because you don't want your equipment to damage, but it will be in the expense of the reliability of the bulk electric system as a whole. So, for example, you are protecting your transformer from tripping offline, right? But maybe you have set your protection system so tight that a little disturbance at the high side of the transformer will just kick your transformer off. Now you're going to cause you're going to cause what we call cascading, because not the first time, but like if you have a huge generating system, it can cause other cascading effects. So that is where the standard has been developed to say, okay, like for example, PRC25, right? It will tell you that don't set your protection, your overcurrent protection up to set your overcurrent protection up to a certain threshold. Let's say 130%. Of course, there are other things for the overcurrent protection. They can give you set it up to over 130%. Where somebody will say, okay, I'm going to set it up to 110 because I want to protect my transformer, right?
Yeah, correct.
But as you set it up to maybe 110, then you're going to cause the system not to be reliable, because any little bit of disturbance on the high side, you're going to trip offline. Then your next non-labor generator will have to pick the load. If it's not able to pick the generation of the load, then what happens is that it also trip off, and then that causes what we call cascading. And when there's cascading, there's blackouts. When there's blackouts, then, like let's say for example, if the whole of California loses blackout, even just for a whole day, there's going to be millions and millions, probably trillions of dollars that will be lost in a day.
Absolutely.
So that is what the standard is there to make sure that there's always electricity available for everyone, and also there is always the system is reliable. When everybody turns the light on, the light is there for them. So basically, that's what we do. We help to ensure that this happens all the time.
That's the best explanation. I heard some years ago the miracle of the interrupter. I mean, when you turn on the lights, you expect to have the light on. So basically, it's a really good understanding of why this is really matters, really important. So thank you so much for that. I want to ask you now about maybe if you can share a story or example that you have, on your career, something that you feel proud because you are doing like the right thing, or that big challenge that you faced and you achieved that? I don't know if you can share something like that.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I have a lot of stories, but I'll try and give you an easy one. But like personally, like where you can hear from my accent, I'm from Africa, right?
Yeah.
I'm from Ghana. And the interesting thing is that when I came to the US, when I came to the US, I was studying chemical engineering. And then I changed to do electrical engineering. And what really made it easy is when I was working with one of the engineering firms to know like how, that company was actually they have a lot of generators. And they are able to, some of the generators, they have a lot of generators, and those generators, they have, I would say that a lot of protection systems that we need to like review and make sure that they are due for maintenance and the rest. But what I would say is that in as much as the system is already built, and some of the systems were built like in 1920s, right? So you can see that it's been there for a long time. But what really made me proud, because at first I didn't know what is protection system, why do I care? Who cares if something trip or it doesn't trip? But as I started working on those systems to see that where we need to make sure that the system is maintained, like for example, which relates to one of the standard PRC5. PRC5 requires that you have a process in reviewing your protection system, in making sure that you test your protection system, that they perform when they are needed, or when the time comes, they perform as is needed. And it's very interesting to find out that as I started working with this company, I was able to see that, oh wow, we could have missed the time that this test should have been done, right? So it's made me like, my work became very important, because it's like, as much as I'm looking at maybe behind a computer, looking at equipment, what type of equipment it is, when was it tested, and all those things, and then calling the people in the field and telling them that, hey, your test is due, you need to get this test done. And the interesting thing is that sometimes when they were doing the test, they found out that even some of the relays should have been tested because it's about to fail. Or even sometimes some of them were like electromechanical relays. So some of them actually should have been tested and maybe a year ago or something, because if there was a fault, probably it wouldn't have even identified the fault or whatever it is. So it shows the importance of where we need to follow through this standard like PRC5 to make sure that the maintenance program is going on well. They do the testing, the tests are done, other things that need to be verified to make sure that the system as a whole is performing as is needed. Because especially when there's a fault on the system, that's not a time for the relay to think that, hey, should I work or shouldn't work? You should work. Right? So that's what I don't know. Maybe I think that's what that comes in mind to share. Yeah.
Absolutely, it's really interesting. Maybe this is a silly question, but I want to ask you. There's, for example, in low voltage or mid voltage, there's these grid codes. You already know that they are looking for this power quality and things like that. How these NERC issues may be related to these grid codes? What is the main difference? I think that the voltage and the scale, but in general, it's these two different topics or these two different words related somehow?
So I don't want to get into like maybe like grid codes, but because sometimes some of these terms, it might mean something different, and sometimes even if you are doing your research, you want to make sure you have the right word. But like one of the things I would say, I'll talk about maybe frequency. So like for example, where we talk about frequency right through, the voltage right through and the frequency right through, for example, where there's a you need to follow a specific, or there's a standard that tells you, okay, comply with this. So for like frequency and voltage right through, you have to talk about PRC24, right? Okay. So PRC24 tells how you need to set your protection system so that it do not trip at a certain threshold, right? And the importance why you need to have it is, of course, for the reliability of the system, right? Because, and I wanted to deviate a little bit, when we're talking about about even the system or the generation and load as a whole, the most important thing we are interested in is the frequency.
Absolutely.
Right? Because we want to have 60 hertz. Everybody gets 60 hertz, everybody is happy. But you go below 60 hertz, then things begin to happen. You go above 60 hertz, then other things also begin to happen, right? And also the same thing with voltage. There's a certain threshold. When it goes above those threshold down, you're going to cause your system not to be happy. Insulators are not going to be happy, and whatever it is. So that's when those standards, those codes or those standards comes in, so that when protection system engineers are setting these settings, they have those in mind, right? So that they don't. Of course, if you are an owner, you want to preserve your equipment, but like as I said earlier on, you don't want to preserve your equipment in the expense of the reliability of the bulk electric system. So that's where those standards are in place, so that everybody, both the bulk electric system is happy, and you as the owner, you are also happy, and everybody is happy, including the one who are going to use your electricity. Because if everyone, the users are also not going to, they are not going to rely on you producing electricity, that will also create a problem. Because like when I turn my light on, the light is not on.
Yeah, it's going to you expect that it works every time.
Yes, every time. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I want to ask you, what advancement or changes in renewable energy compliance are you most excited about? I mean, this world is changing fast, new standards coming. I mean, how excited, what is happening around?
I'm not sure if I'm happy or whatever, but I know there's a lot of things coming up, which is good. It's actually creating, of course, it's creating excitement. Personally, what I'm excited about the new standard, that is a lot of the new standard that is coming up due to FED 901, right? Of course, we know who are following what is happening in the industry, there is the FED 901, and there are milestones, right? Recently, the milestone 2, they were milestone 1, milestone 2, milestone 2. They made some, I don't know whether to say they made some headway, because there's still some things to iron up and make sure everything goes smoothly. But what I am happy about the new standard that is coming up is the segregation of the synchronous system and then the IBRs, or the asynchronous system, right? Because the standard that is written as of now is mostly favored synchronous generators or synchronous system, right? So now having the IBR, which is an asynchronous system, to be able to have standard developed for that particular system, it makes sense, right? So like some of the standard that is coming, like PRC 28, for example, which was the previously, if I'm correct, is PRC 2, which is being split into 2. So PRC 2 is where you install disturbance monitoring equipment, right? And now they split it. In the previous standard, it is only for synchronous, or not for only synchronous generators, but like there's a certain threshold where you are pulled into the standard to comply with. Unless you are with TRE or airport region, then there are other things that comes into play. So PRC 28, now we know that they are developing the standard to the point that if you have an IBR system, then you will need to comply with it. So if you say being happy, I'm just happy that differentiation is coming in, and anyone with an IBR system will know exactly what needs to be done. Because sometimes it gets very confusing to say, this is not a synchronous system, and they want me to comply with this. I can't comply with this, and all those things. So that's one of the things, like new standards are being developed to take care of, especially the IBRs.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it's also about to promote the grid to be more reliant or more flexible, right? Because if you rely all the time on this electrical inertia, I mean, that you need in the past, because you have these centralized systems and things like that, and now that you have a bunch more of different sources, I mean, these renewable sources that are variable, that, I mean, they don't behave the way the other systems, the traditional system operates. So I think it's about that, right? Reliability, flexibility, and in general, how to be more able to receive more and greater amount of green energy in the grid, right?
That's true, and that's a great point you made, because like the previous system it has more inertia. Of course, the synchronous generators, you have hydro system, you have other wind steam turbines. They are able to move with the system. If anything, they can help. But with the IBRs on the system, then it's going to be more and more. So we cannot use the same, like even frequency. You can't use the same settings, or you can't use the same threshold settings that you use for inertia system, like the inertia one. You need to have something that has a wide variation or a wide gap, so that you'll be able to maneuver if there's a fault on the system. So yes, it makes sense that we are having it makes sense where we are going right now, because there's going to be more inverter-based resources being in the bulk electric system. We have to be ready for the challenges that is ahead of us.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Thank you so much, Henry. I hope this chat is the first of many others that we may have in the future. Thanks all for staying tuned to this episode. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on our social media. Share this content with your friends and colleagues, and join us next time as we continue to empower your journey towards renewable energy. Until then, I'm 𝗁𝗃𝗺𝗺 saying goodbye and see you soon. Thank you so much, Henry.
Thank you so much.